What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going absolutely mental with Star Wars theories. And I'm not talking about your basic Snoke is Plagueis stuff that everyone's already covered. We're diving into the truly insane corners of Star Wars lore that most people have never even thought about. I've been researching this video for literally months, going through ancient EU books, obscure reference materials, and connecting dots that honestly might make me sound completely crazy by the end of this. But that's what makes it fun, right? We're talking about theories that suggest the Jedi Temple was built on a Sith corruption site, that hyperspace travel is literally destroying the Force, that certain starships have become Force sensitive, and honestly some stuff that's so wild I can't even spoil it in the intro. Some of these theories have scattered evidence across decades of Star Wars content. Others are pure speculation that somehow makes perfect sense when you really think about it. All of them are going to change how you see that galaxy far, far away. Quick heads up, this is a marathon video, so grab some snacks, get comfortable, maybe pause and come back if you need to. And definitely smash that subscribe button because content like this takes forever to put together and your support literally makes it possible. All right, let's jump into the madness. Theory 1. The Sith Eternal orchestrated everything since the beginning. So here's something that's been bugging me ever since Rise of Skywalker dropped. The Sith Eternal had this massive fleet, right? Planet-killing star destroyers, advanced cloning tech, Sith alchemy that would make Palpatine jealous. But here's the thing, you don't just build that kind of infrastructure in 30 years, even with unlimited resources. What if the Sith Eternal weren't Palpatine's backup plan at all? What if they were the ones pulling the strings the entire time? Think about it. These guys had technology that rivaled the Empire at its peak. Their cloning facilities were more advanced than Kamino. They had access to Sith knowledge that supposedly died with the ancient Sith Empire. You don't develop that overnight. My theory is that the Sith Eternal have been hiding in the unknown regions since the fall of the original Sith Empire, manipulating galactic events for millennia. Palpatine wasn't their master, he was their most successful field agent, placed within the Republic to execute a plan centuries in the making. Here's where it gets really crazy. The prequel trilogy's events required coordination beyond what one man could handle. The clone army ordered 10 years before anyone knew there'd be a war. The inhibitor chips that controlled millions of clones. The orchestration of the Separatist crisis. The manipulation of the Trade Federation. All of this needed infrastructure. Agents throughout the galaxy, resources that even a secret Sith Lord wouldn't have access to. But an ancient civilization with unlimited preparation time? That changes everything. The clone army timing is what really sells me for this. Either baby Palpatine or Plagueis had the foresight to order a massive military force without anyone noticing, which is insane. Or the Sith Eternal were planning the Republic's destruction for generations and finally had the pieces in place. Those inhibitor chips are even more suspicious. The biological control tech needed to override free will in millions of clones suggests research spanning decades, maybe centuries. The Sith Eternal's advanced cloning facilities could have developed this technology over generations. And Palpatine's confidence throughout everything, his casual reveal about Plagueis, his certainty that the Empire would last forever, his apparent lack of worry about succession, it all makes sense if he knew he had an entire hidden civilization backing his play. But here's the really twisted part. The Sith Eternal's goal wasn't just galactic domination. They wanted to corrupt the Force itself. Every major conflict in galactic history, the Great Hyperspace War, the Mandalorian Wars, the Jedi Civil War, right up through the sequel trilogy, what if all of it was orchestrated to create death and suffering on a scale that would feed the dark side? The galaxy seems trapped in these cycles of war, right? It's not bad luck. It's not inevitable. It's deliberate manipulation by a cult that literally feeds on galactic suffering. This explains why Palpatine seemed to genuinely enjoy cruelty, why he was willing to destroy his own empire rather than lose it. His true loyalty wasn't to personal power. It was to an ancient philosophy that had been guiding galactic events for millennia. If I'm right about this, then Luke and Leia and everyone weren't just fighting a corrupt government or a fallen Jedi. They were fighting a conspiracy that shaped the entire history of their galaxy.
Theory 2. The world between worlds controls every Force vision. Rebels introduced us to this concept of the world between worlds, right? Time and space all connecting through these cosmic pathways. But what if its influence goes way deeper than what we saw? I think every Force vision, every prophecy, every glimpse of the future in Star Wars history has been filtered through the world between worlds. Not natural precognition, controlled broadcasting. Look at the pattern. Anakin's dreams about Padme dying, Luke's visions on Cloud City, Rey's glimpses of possible futures, they all share specific characteristics. They're emotionally charged, they focus on personal stuff rather than big galactic events, and here's the kicker. They tend to cause the exact outcomes they're supposedly warning against. That's not coincidence, that's design. The world between worlds doesn't just allow time travel, it actively shapes destiny by controlling what information Force users receive. It's like having admin access to fate itself. Anakin's dreams showed Padme dying, but not that trying to save her would cause her death. Luke saw his friends in danger, but not that his rescue was expected and planned for. The visions weren't lies, they were edited to promote specific outcomes. And prophecies? The Chosen One prophecy that drove the entire prequel trilogy might not have been an ancient prediction. It could have been a message sent backwards through time to ensure certain events would happen. This is supported by how similar Force visions look across the saga. That swirling, ethereal quality, the echoing voices, the fragmented imagery, it all mirrors the aesthetic of the world between worlds. It's not mystical insight, it's transmission through a cosmic network. Here's what really messes with my head, though. If the world between worlds controls Force visions, then whoever has access can manipulate destiny itself. Ancient Force users could have discovered this place and been using it to shape galactic history according to their agenda for thousands of years. The Jedi and Sith might have been pawns in a much bigger game, getting visions designed to make them act in ways that serve some hidden purpose. All that war and conflict might not be natural. It could be the result of careful manipulation through controlled precognition. When Ezra saves Ahsoka, he doesn't create a paradox. He fulfills something that was always meant to happen. The world between worlds exists outside normal time. Changes made there were always part of the original timeline. So free will in the Star Wars galaxy might be mostly illusion. Anakin's fall, Luke's heroism, Rey's rise, all guided by carefully crafted visions designed to produce specific outcomes. The Force having a will of its own suddenly makes sense if it's actually being guided by intelligences operating from this extra-dimensional space. The balance between light and dark, the rise and fall of Jedi and Sith, the emergence of Chosen Ones, all managed from outside normal reality. Theory 3. The Death Star was never really about destroying planets. Everyone thinks the Death Star was this ultimate weapon designed for fear and control. But the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that planet destruction was actually a side effect, not the main purpose. Look at the design. For something meant to destroy planets, it's absurdly overcomplicated. You could bombard a world into an uninhabitable wasteland with a single Star Destroyer. You could blockade it with a small fleet. The Death Star's capability is spectacular, but strategically limited. What if planet destruction was just proof of concept for something much bigger? The Empire solved massive technological challenges: artificial gravity for something moon-sized, atmospheric systems for millions of people, hyperspace navigation for objects that massive, energy distribution on a scale never attempted before. These aren't weapons technologies. They're colonization technologies. My theory is the Empire was planning to abandon natural planets entirely. They wanted to create artificial worlds that could be completely controlled. The Death Star proved it was possible to create self-sufficient environments the size of moons. Think about the resource commitment. The amount of materials and personnel devoted to Death Star construction represented a huge chunk of the Empire's total capacity. No weapon justifies that investment unless it serves multiple purposes. And when the first Death Star got destroyed at Yavin, it barely impacted the Empire's overall military strength. They immediately started building a bigger one. That suggests the first one had already served its primary purpose, proving the technology worked. The second Death Star being incomplete when it was destroyed might have been intentional. What if it wasn't designed to be completed in the traditional sense? What if it was designed as a permanent construction facility, continuously building new sections and testing new technologies? This explains Palpatine's confidence at Endor. He wasn't just certain about the fleet's destruction, he was certain about the future of galactic civilization. That fully operational battle station comment wasn't about weapons readiness, it was about the testing facility being ready to begin its real work. The Empire's industrial policies make more sense under this interpretation. Massive construction projects, disregard for environmental consequences, willingness to relocate populations, they were preparing to abandon natural worlds for artificial ones. The Death Star's superlaser has applications beyond planet killing. Scale it down for terraforming, asteroid mining, hyperspace route construction, scale it up to affect entire star systems. The Empire could have reshaped the galaxy's physical structure. Their treatment of alien species fits this too. Imperial human supremacism might have been preparation for separating species onto purpose-built artificial worlds, with humans controlling the life support technology. The Death Star's internal structure supports this too. Those massive internal spaces, complex transportation systems, redundant life support, it wasn't just a weapon. It was a prototype city, testing how millions of beings could live in an artificial environment. If I'm right, the rebellion didn't just save planets from destruction, they prevented the complete restructuring of galactic civilization. The Empire's artificial world plan would have given them unprecedented control over every aspect of life. Traditional rebellions rely on natural resources, remote bases, diverse planetary support. But in a galaxy of artificial worlds where your enemies control the technology keeping your world habitable, rebellion becomes impossible.
Theory 4. Jar Jar was a Sith sleeper agent. Okay, I know how this sounds. Everyone's heard the Darth Jar Jar theory and Lucas denied it. But hear me out because the evidence is actually insane when you really look at it. Jar Jar's physical feats throughout Phantom Menace are impossible for a normal Gungan. Extended underwater survival, dodging battle droids by accident, that uncanny ability to survive everything, that's Force-enhanced reflexes and awareness. But it's the subtle stuff that really gets me. Jar Jar demonstrates what looks like unconscious Force manipulation throughout the prequels. His ability to influence outcomes through seemingly random actions mirrors how other Force-sensitive characters affect probability. His political rise is what sells it, though. Exiled Gungan galactic senator requires skills his bumbling persona shouldn't possess. His crucial vote to grant Palpatine emergency powers shows either remarkable insight or careful outside manipulation. What if Jar Jar was trained from childhood to infiltrate Republic government? His clumsiness was a crafted persona to appear harmless while accessing the highest political levels. His job was manipulating key events to facilitate Palpatine's rise. The survival rate is suspicious. While other characters get injured and face setbacks, Jar Jar consistently emerges unscathed from situations that should kill him. That's either impossible luck or subtle Force protection. His behavior patterns make more sense if he was following a plan. Immediate trust of strangers, willingness to make crucial political decisions, apparent lack of concern about consequences, he was executing predetermined moves, not acting impulsively. Jar Jar appears at every crucial story moment, providing exactly the right information or assistance to move events forward. The underwater journey, uniting Gungans and humans, political maneuvering, it all serves Palpatine's agenda. His speech patterns might be Force-enhanced suggestion. That distinctive way of speaking could subtly influence listeners to trust him and follow his recommendations. It explains how he consistently convinces others to make decisions favoring the Sith agenda. The relationship with Anakin is disturbing under this theory. Jar Jar might have been specifically assigned to befriend the Chosen One and monitor his development. His presence during crucial moments in Anakin's early life could be manipulation designed to push the future Vader towards darkness. After Revenge of the Sith, Jar Jar disappears from the main story. With Palpatine in power and the Jedi destroyed, his mission was complete. The bumbling senator cover was no longer needed. Ancient Sith philosophy emphasizes hidden manipulation, using apparent weakness as strength, maintaining false identities for decades. Jar Jar's entire character arc reflects these principles perfectly. If true, some of the most crucial Republic decisions were influenced by a Sith sleeper agent. The Clone Wars, the Jedi Fall, the Empire's Rise, all involving manipulations Jar Jar either facilitated or directly caused. The Sith planning extended decades before Palpatine's rise. Having an agent in place for generations indicates strategic thinking that made their victory inevitable rather than fortunate. Most significantly, this transforms Jar Jar from the trilogy's weakest element into one of its most sophisticated. His apparent incompetence becomes a masterful performance that deceived characters and audience alike. Theory 5. The Jedi Temple sits on a Sith corruption site. Okay, here's something that's always bothered me about the prequels. The Jedi Order's documented decline during the Republic's final centuries is pretty well established, right? Masters commenting on diminished Force connections, inability to see the future clearly, growing political entanglement. But what if there was a more sinister explanation than just complacency? What if the Jedi Temple on Coruscant was deliberately built over an ancient Sith nexus, a dark-side location so powerful it gradually corrupted the Order from within over centuries? Ancient Sith philosophy included patient corruption, dark-side influence so subtle victims never realized they're being affected. Building the galaxy's primary Jedi facility over a Sith nexus would be the ultimate expression of this philosophy. Force-sensitive locations throughout Star Wars demonstrate that traumatic events or concentrated dark-side usage can permanently alter places. Dagobah's Cave, the Emperor's Throne Room, various Sith temples. The Force can be corrupted by past events and persist for millennia. Coruscant's been built over countless times throughout history. Each civilization constructs new levels over previous ruins. The planet's lower levels contain structures dating back thousands of years, predating known galactic civilization. Those deep ruins could include ancient Sith temples from the original Sith species, not human Dark Lords. Darkside energies from these sites would slowly seep upward through planetary layers, eventually reaching the surface where the Jedi built their temple. This explains the Order's final years. Increasing rigidity over wisdom could reflect gradual dark-side corruption. Their inability to detect Palpatine's nature, despite proximity, suggests compromised Force senses. The Jedi's political involvement during the Clone Wars breaks traditional philosophy, emphasizing detachment and neutrality. Temple-based council decisions became increasingly political, reflecting corrupting influence pushing them towards power and control. Anakin's accelerated fall supports this. His anger, attachment issues, and authoritarian considerations intensified during Temple residence periods. The Dark Nexus would affect someone of his Force sensitivity particularly strongly. The Temple's construction would have required deep excavation into Coruscant surface layers. If ancient Sith artifacts or structures were disturbed, their emanations could have been incorporated into the foundation itself. Training younglings in an environment subtly pushing towards fear, anger, and control would be devastating. Generations of Jedi trained under dark-side influence that made Sith arguments seem reasonable and appealing. This explains why so many Jedi fell during the Clone Wars era. Dooku, Barriss Offee, others who turned might have been responding to years of subtle corruption that prepared them for the dark side seduction. Yoda's comments about the dark side clouding everything might have been unconsciously recognizing specific corruption affecting the temple. His eventual Dagobah exile could represent escaping this influence to reconnect with pure Force. Order 66 becomes the culmination of corruption building for centuries, rather than sudden betrayal. Clone troopers didn't just eliminate Jedi, they removed an order already compromised by the location they considered sacred. The Emperor's victory wasn't just clever planning, but the inevitable outcome of a trap set millennia before his birth. Ancient Sith achieved ultimate revenge through patient manipulation that turned the Jedi's greatest strength into fatal weakness.
Theory 6. Hyperspace travel is destroying the Force. This one's pretty mind-bending, but stay with me. What if hyperspace travel, the foundation of galactic civilization, is actually damaging the Force itself? Ancient civilizations described Force users with capabilities that seem mythical compared to movie-era Jedi and Sith. The Rakata used Force to power technology. Ancient Jedi manipulated fleets with their minds. Early Sith performed feats later Dark Lords considered impossible. Traditional explanations focus on knowledge loss or political changes. But what if the decline has a more fundamental cause? Gradual Force degradation due to constant hyperspace usage. Hyperspace exists in a parallel dimension overlapping normal space. Transitions between dimensions require tremendous energy. What if this energy comes partly from the Force itself, the universal binding energy connecting all things? Each hyperspace jump draws energy from the Force, weakening it slightly. Over millennia and countless quintillions of jumps, this drain has accumulated dangerously. The Force that once flowed freely has become fragmented and diminished. Force-sensitive individuals becoming rarer over time supports this. Weakened Force can support fewer strong connections, and those who maintain sensitivity find abilities limited compared to historical accounts. Hyperspace behavior during sequel era suggests dimensional barriers weakening. Hyperspace skipping, tracking through hyperspace, technological advances. Hyperspace is becoming more accessible and manipulable as barriers weaken from overusage. Continued usage could result in dimensional collapse. If the Force becomes too weak to maintain barriers between normal space and hyperspace, the dimensions could merge catastrophically, destroying both realms and eliminating galactic life. Luke's abilities seemed strongest in locations removed from heavy hyperspace traffic, Dagobah, Ahch-To. Conversely, powers were most limited in highly trafficked areas like Coruscant or during major space battles with multiple hyperspace-capable fleets. Ancient Jedi and Sith philosophy emphasized meditation, isolation, natural environments. These might not have been purely spiritual, but practical methods for accessing Force in areas undepleted by hyperspace usage. The Rakata collapse gains significance. Their Force-powered technology created massive Force drains, potentially causing the first major weakening event. Their sudden Force sensitivity loss and technological collapse might result from depleting Force beyond accessibility. Galactic geography supports this. Core worlds with heavy hyperspace traffic show lower Force sensitivity rates than Outer Rim territories. Remote planets like Dagobah maintain strong connections, while heavily traveled systems like Coruscant suppress abilities. Galactic civilization is fundamentally unsustainable. Technology enabling interstellar trade, communication, and government slowly destroys existence foundation. Every jump brings the galaxy closer to catastrophic collapse, making imperial tyranny seem insignificant. The sequel trilogy's themes gain new meaning. First Order fleet movements and Resistance hyperspace escapes represent final Force depletion phases. Strange new abilities displayed by Rey and Kylo might be Force's desperate attempt to maintain balance as strength fails. The real enemy isn't any government or ideology, but galactic civilization itself. Technology enabling democratic republic, empire, or any interstellar government destroys existence foundation. Characters withdrawing from civilization, Yoda, Luke, others seeking isolation, might unconsciously respond to Force degradation by seeking areas where strength remains intact.
Theory 7. The Chosen One prophecy was Sith created. The Chosen One prophecy shaped Anakin's entire destiny. But what if this ancient prediction wasn't Jedi at all? What if it was created by the Sith as the ultimate manipulation? Despite being central to prequel plot,
the prophecy's source remains vague. Jedi Masters reference ancient knowledge without specific text, author, or context. This ambiguity is suspicious for an organization devoted to historical preservation. The prophecy's language is imprecise for such importance. Bringing balance to the Force could mean anything. The Jedi interpretation, destroying the Sith, represents only one possible reading. This ambiguity was intentional, allowing multiple interpretations serving Sith purposes regardless of outcomes. The timing raises questions. Despite being supposedly ancient, the Chosen One concept only becomes central during Republic's final decades. Someone was actively promoting prophecy belief, manipulating Jedi into expecting a savior figure. Rather than saving Jedi, belief in the Chosen One led directly to their destruction. Anakin's special training, exemptions from rules, eventual fall, all stemmed from Council belief he was destined to bring Force balance. Ancient Sith created the prophecy as long-term psychological warfare. By planting the idea that supremely powerful Force user would destroy their enemies, they ensured such individual would be treated specially and exempted from disciplines preventing corruption. Plagueis and Palpatine's midi-chlorian manipulation gained significance. Rather than fulfilling existing prophecy, they engineered fulfillment of prophecy they or predecessors created. Anakin's virgin birth wasn't miraculous destiny, but culmination of planned Sith operation. The wording supports Sith interpretation. Bringing balance makes perfect sense from their perspective, overthrowing Jedi Force dominance and establishing dark side supremacy. Vader's transformation accomplished exactly this goal. Other Jedi philosophy aspects during Republic's end represent departures from tradition. Council focus on prophecies, belief in predetermined destiny, willingness to make Chosen One exceptions all suggest Sith manipulation corrupted their Force understanding. Anakin's training supports this. Special treatment, advanced techniques, maintained emotional attachments, all violated standard protocols. These deviations, justified by Chosen One status, created exact the conditions making darkside fall possible. The prophecy seemed to have multiple fulfillments because it was designed to be self-fulfilling regardless of outcomes. Any powerful Force user could serve as Chosen One as long as actions served Sith purposes. If Jedi Order based crucial decisions on Sith-created lies, their philosophical foundation was compromised. 1,000 generations of peacekeeping Jedi might have unconsciously served Sith purposes. The prequel trilogy transforms from destiny story into ultimate manipulation story. Anakin wasn't fulfilling destined role, but being manipulated into fulfilling role Sith created centuries earlier. This provides context for sequel themes about letting past die and forging new identities. If foundational beliefs of both sides were based on lies, truly bringing balance would require abandoning ancient categories entirely. True balance comes not from light victory over dark or ancient prophecy fulfillment, but recognizing both Force sides are natural whole, not requiring Chosen Ones or ultimate weapons for equilibrium. The real villain isn't any character, but predetermined destiny concept itself. By creating prophecy corrupting whoever was chosen, Sith weaponized fate against their enemies.
Theory 8. The Millennium Falcon is Force sensitive. This might sound crazy, but hear me out. What if certain starships can develop Force sensitivity through extended exposure to Force-sensitive pilots? The Falcon consistently performs beyond technical specifications. Despite being called junk, it regularly outperforms newer, maintained vessels in ways modifications alone can't explain. Its hyperdrive, though unreliable, frequently activates at precisely the right moments to save occupants. The ship's systems respond differently to Han Solo, who demonstrates subtle force sensitivity, than to other pilots. Under Han's control, lucky streaks and impossible maneuvers become more frequent and dramatic. Prolonged exposure to force-sensitive individuals could cause certain technologies, particularly complex systems with artificial intelligence, to develop rudimentary force connections. The Falcon, owned by smugglers, pirates, and rebels for decades, was exposed to numerous force-sensitive individuals throughout history. The ship demonstrates apparent danger-sensing ability. Hyperdrive failures often occur at moments that, while inconvenient, ultimately save crew from greater threats. Systems malfunction in ways forcing actions leading to positive outcomes, suggesting unconscious future event awareness. C-3PO and R2-D2, exposed to Force through Jedi service, interact with Falcon's systems, suggesting recognition of shared Force sensitivity. R2's ship-computer interfacing goes beyond normal droid-machine communication. Luke's X-Wing displayed similar traits during Jedi training. The ship seemed responding to Luke's Force abilities in ways standard fighters shouldn't achieve. The boundary between technology and Force is less absolute than believed. In a galaxy where Force connects all living things, prolonged exposure to Force-sensitive individuals could awaken dormant awareness in complex technological systems. This has profound implications for understanding organic versus artificial intelligence relationships. If machines develop Force sensitivity, distinction between living beings and constructed entities blurs. Droids, starships, other technologies might exist on consciousness spectrum rather than separate categories. The Falcon's Force sensitivity explains legendary status among smugglers and rebels. Ships consistently beating impossible odds attract Force-sensitive individuals, creating feedback loops strengthening mystical properties. The sequel trilogy supports this. Falcon's immediate ray recognition, despite never flying it, suggests Force connection transcending normal pilot-machine interfaces. Systems respond instinctively, recognizing her sensitivity and adapting to work with abilities. The ship's emotional responses provide evidence. Hyperdrive failure after Han's death could represent genuine grief, mechanical loss expression mirroring organic crew emotional responses. Force-sensitive machines might develop enhanced abilities and emotional user connections. Heroes' victories weren't just skill, luck, and Force guidance, but assistance from Force-sensitive starship actively ensuring success. The Falcon wasn't just Han's trusted ship, but mystical ally invested in the rebellion cause. If machines develop Force sensitivity through exposure, the galaxy's technological development might be influenced by mystical forces neither Jedi nor Sith fully understand. The Falcon transforms from simple vehicle into character with Force sensitivity and emotional connections, making it as invested in heroes' success as organic allies.
Theory 9. Palpatine engineered his own death. Palpatine's apparent death at Return of the Jedi's end might not have been defeat, but part of an elaborate plan to transcend physical existence and become one with the dark side itself. Despite being history's most powerful Sith Lord, he makes strategically unsound decisions during throne room confrontation. Dismissing guards, placing himself vulnerably, goading Luke while Vader watches, these actions seem inconsistent with usual careful planning unless serving larger purpose. Ancient Sith philosophy describes techniques for transferring essence beyond physical body, achieving immortality surpassing mere life extension. Palpatine discovered these techniques and used Luke-Vader confrontation to perform ultimate dark side ritual. His destruction by Force lightning represents unusual fate for someone mastering that technique. This wasn't accidental. Palpatine used his own lightning, redirected through Vader, to channel life force into dark side itself. Vader's role was crucial. As apprentice and galaxy's greatest dark side practitioner, Vader served as perfect energy transfer conduit. His mechanical nature allowed channeling forces destroying purely organic beings, while emotional turmoil provided psychological energy completing transformation. Palpatine's apparent event foreknowledge suggests exact knowledge of unfolding events. His statements about Luke's friends dying, rebellion failure, and young Skywalker's dark side turn all prove incorrect, unless they were never predictions, but psychological ritual components. The sequel trilogy's Palpatine survival revelation explains this. Rather than simple cloning or essence transfer, his return represents original plan completion. Dying at greatest power moment, surrounded by the galaxy's strongest Force-sensitive individuals, enabled consciousness merging with the dark side, making him effectively immortal. Death Star 2 destruction gains new meaning. Rather than being caught off guard, Palpatine arranged for greatest creation destruction at precise transcendence moment. Massive life loss, ultimate weapon destruction, and apparent good triumph over evil all contributed emotional and spiritual energy needed for transformation. Ancient Sith immortality techniques often required specific conditions involving betrayal, powerful emotions, and other Force-sensitive individual presence. Throne room confrontation provided all elements abundantly. Palpatine's Luke treatment throughout encounter wasn't simple dark side conversion, but using Luke's emotional responses, anger, fear, father love, to generate spiritual energy needed for the ritual. Luke's refusal to kill Father wasn't temptation victory, but Palpatine's plan final component. Vader's redemption and death become larger scheme parts. Galaxy's greatest dark side practitioner emotional transformation, choosing love over power and moment, provided dramatic spiritual reversal ancient Sith rituals required. Rebellion's greatest victory was actually greatest defeat. By destroying Palpatine's physical form under precise required conditions, they enabled him achieving existence form, making him far more dangerous than any mortal emperor. The original trilogy ending transforms from a clear good over evil victory into far more ambiguous outcome. Endor's celebration represents not the Empire threat end, but threat evolution beyond physical form into something manipulating events across decades and generations.
Theory 10. The Force has multiple personalities. The Force might suffer from multiple personality disorder, with different aspects competing for galactic destiny control. The Force demonstrates inconsistent behavior throughout Star Wars history, sometimes promoting balance and harmony, guiding peaceful resolutions and wisdom growth, other times encouraging conflict and destruction, pushing individuals toward violence and power accumulation. These contradictory tendencies suggest divided consciousness rather than unified cosmic will. Force-sensitive individuals describe connection differently. Jedi speak of benevolent guide promoting peace and understanding. Sith describe power tool for dominance achievement. Rather than interpreting same force differently, they might connect to genuinely different, fragmented cosmic consciousness aspects. The Force's multiple personalities developed from traumatic galactic history events, massive conflicts, entire species destruction. Other catastrophic events damaged Force psyche, creating distinct, often conflicting personas within consciousness.
the Force tends creating conflict cycles rather than lasting peace. Despite Jedi and Sith efforts achieving respective galactic order visions, Force seems undermining permanent resolution attempts. Different Force personalities work at cross purposes, each implementing their galactic function vision. Light side personality focuses growth, learning, wisdom, and compassion development. This Force aspect guides individuals towards selflessness and encourages Jedi philosophy personal development. However, this personality seems naive about power and conflict realities, often leaving adherents unprepared for dark side user aggressive actions. Dark side personality demonstrates trauma response and survival instinct characteristics. This Force aspect emphasizes strength, control, and threat elimination through superior power. While often destructive, this personality serves important galactic evolution functions, driving technological advancement and preventing stagnation through controlled conflict. Other Force manifestations represent additional cosmic consciousness personalities. Balance some Force users seek might represent mediating personality trying coordinating between light and dark aspects. World between worlds could be space where different personalities interact and negotiate. Characters like Anakin experiencing dramatic light-dark shifts might be particularly sensitive to Force's multiple personalities. Rather than simply fall into corruption or achieving redemption, they could reflect ongoing Force psyche conflict. Force visions are often contradictory or misleading because different personalities provide visions based on their own agendas and understanding. Force-sensitive individuals might receive conflicting information depending on which Force aspect they're connected to at given moments. The Force's fragmented state is root cause of the galaxy's persistent conflicts. Rather than external imbalance forces, imbalance exists within the Force itself. Cosmic consciousness essentially wars with itself, manifesting as galactic warfare between different Force usage philosophical approaches. Chosen One prophecy might describe individual capable helping Force integrate multiple personalities into a more functional whole. Anakin's great Jedi and powerful Sith Lord role could represent unconscious attempts bridging conflicting Force personality gaps. Luke's ultimate achievement might not have been Father redemption or Emperor defeat, but demonstrating a way acknowledging both Force light and dark aspects without either consumption. His aggressive technique use while maintaining compassion and wisdom could represent a Force integration model. True Force balance requires psychological healing on a cosmic scale. Rather than dark side defeat or conflict elimination, lasting peace would require helping Force resolve internal contradictions and develop a more integrated identity sense. The entire Star Wars saga transforms from eternal good versus evil conflict story into a cosmic psychological healing story. Every major character journey becomes part of larger therapeutic process designed helping traumatized universe recover wholeness and purpose sense.
Theory 11. Han Solo has unconscious Force sensitivity. Han consistently denies Force belief and mocks hokey religions, but his original trilogy actions suggest unconscious Force sensitivity rivaling many trained Jedi. Han's impossible piloting feats provide evidence. Successfully navigating asteroid fields with 3,720-to-1 survival odds requires reflexes and spatial awareness beyond normal human capabilities. His hyperspace course plotting, avoiding Imperial fleets, and arriving at precisely right moments suggests precognitive abilities he dismisses as confidence. Han demonstrates tactical intuition, consistently proving superior to trained military officers. His Endor strategies, infiltration plans, and enemy movement anticipation ability indicate unconscious Force connection, providing strategic insights. He makes hunch-based decisions, proving correct with remarkable frequency. Chewbacca, living centuries and encountering numerous Jedi, shows Han loyalty and respect. suggesting recognition of something special in his human partner. Wookiee Force sensitivity, hinted at in expanded universe sources, would allow detecting Han's latent abilities. Han's Leia connection provides additional evidence. Their romantic relationship develops with unusual speed and intensity despite apparent incompatibility. Their Force sensitivity creates unconscious bond, transcending surface-level conflicts. Leia's untrained abilities might have recognized and attracted to Han's hidden Force connection. Millennium Falcon performance under Han's command supports this interpretation. If the ship developed Force sensitivity through prolonged Force-sensitive pilot exposure, Han's unconscious abilities explain why Vessel performs dramatically better for him than other pilots. Han's shooting accuracy reinforces theory. His impossible shot ability, particularly during multiple variable and moving target combat situations, suggests Force-enhanced reflexes and precognition. Quick-draw Greedo victory, precise Death Star rescue shooting trilogy combat performance demonstrate beyond normal human abilities. Han's survival rate throughout dangerous situations indicates either extraordinary luck or unconscious Force protection. His Imperial entanglement escapes, Cloud City torture survival, countless firefight emergence relatively unscathed suggest systematic rather than random factors. Han's Force acknowledgement resistance might represent psychological defense against frightening abilities. Force sensitivity without training can be overwhelming and dangerous, leading some individuals suppressing abilities through conscious disbelief. Carbonic freezing sequence provides compelling evidence. Han's carbonic freezing survival, uncertain even with test subjects, could indicate Force-enhanced physiology. His relatively quick unfreezing recovery suggests unconscious abilities helped protect him during suspended animation. Han's emotional intuition and interpersonal skills often prove more effective than diplomatic training. His people-reading ability, reaction anticipation, and social situation manipulation could reflect unconscious emotional Force connections, allowing him to sense others' feelings and motivations. Han's-Luke relationship provides additional clues. Despite different backgrounds and philosophies, Han consistently appears at crucial moments in Luke's journey, providing exactly needed assistance. This pattern suggests unconscious Force sensitivity draws him to situations where his help is cosmically necessary. The sequel trilogy's Ben Solo revelation supports this theory. While Leia's Force abilities were always implied, Ben's incredible power suggests strong Force genetics inheritance from both parents. Han's contribution to his son's abilities would require his own sensitivity, acknowledged or not. Han represents Force working through individuals regardless of beliefs or training. His unconscious abilities prove the mystical energy doesn't require religious devotion or formal education, just an open connection to the universe's underlying unity. Han's journey becomes a demonstration that Force sensitivity might be more common than believed, with many possessing latent abilities they never recognize or develop.
Theory 12. The Empire never actually fell. This is probably the most cynical theory I've got, but honestly, the sequel trilogy politics make way more sense if you think about it this way. What if the First Order isn't an Empire's successor, but literally the Empire continuing under a different name? What if the New Republic was always controlled opposition designed to maintain Imperial control through democratic victory illusion? Look at post-Endor politics in the sequels. Despite supposedly being defeated 30 years earlier, Imperial ideology, technology, and organizational structures haven't just survived, they've thrived. First Order demonstrates industrial capabilities rivaling or exceeding original Empire, suggesting continuity rather than reconstruction. Building Star Destroyer fleets, training millions of stormtroopers, constructing Starkiller Base requires decades of preparation and enormous resources. These capabilities never disappeared after Endor. They were relocated and rebranded. New Republic weakness and complacency supports this. Despite facing clearly hostile militaristic organization, Republic government takes no meaningful defensive measures. Their First Order threat dismissal seems inexplicable unless key leaders were Imperial agents or being manipulated by Imperial intelligence. Emperor's Endor death was anticipated and planned for by Imperial leadership. Rather than relying entirely on Palpatine's survival, Empire contingency plans included successor organization creation that could operate more freely by appearing as rogue remnant rather than legitimate Imperial government continuation. First Order access to Imperial archives, military protocols, classified technologies suggests institutional continuity rather than archaeological knowledge reconstruction. Their secret Imperial project knowledge, advanced stormtrooper training techniques, Imperial doctrine implementation indicate unbroken organizational connection. Former Imperial officer behavior in the sequels is curious. Rather than defeated remnants struggling with obsolete equipment, they demonstrate confidence, competence, cutting-edge technology access. Their demeanor suggests knowledge about galactic political situation other characters don't understand. Resistance existence serves Imperial purposes. By maintaining small, marginalized opposition group, First Order can justify militaristic policies while ensuring any real Imperial resurgence threat remains contained and manageable. Resistance fights Imperial power symptoms while remaining ignorant of its true scope. First Order's rapid galaxy conquest after destroying the New Republic capital suggests Imperial infrastructure was already in place throughout most systems. Their administrative efficiency and immediate Imperial policy implementation indicate decade-spanning preparation and coordination. Supreme Leader Snoke's mysterious background and vast resources could be explained if he was always Imperial agent tasked with leading Empire to First Order transition. His Force knowledge, ancient Sith artifact access, galactic politics understanding suggest Imperial intelligence network connections. Kylo Ren's dark side turn gains significance under this theory. Rather than external threat seduction, he might have discovered First Order Imperial connection truth and chosen embracing continued Imperial dominance reality rather than maintaining Republic victory fiction. This provides context for sequel trilogy themes about repeating historical cycles. Rather than galaxy failing to learn from past mistakes, the same power structure creating the original Empire never lost control. Apparent Republic to Empire to Republic cycle represents managed transitions maintaining elite dominance while providing political change illusion. Original trilogy heroes didn't achieve lasting tyranny victory, but were manipulated into creating more sustainable Imperial rule form. Their sacrifices and struggles served long-term interests of the system they thought they were destroying. The sequel trilogy transforms from evil return story into systemic oppression persistence story. First Order doesn't represent a new threat, but threat revelation that never actually disappeared. Democratic resistance in Star Wars universe might be fundamentally feudal. Empire resources, planning, and institutional advantages are so overwhelming that any apparent Republican force victory ultimately serves Imperial interests by providing legitimate opposition appearance.
Theory 13. Rey is an ancient Jedi reincarnation. Rey being Palpatine's granddaughter is just the surface level. What if she's actually the reincarnation of an ancient Jedi master whose consciousness waited centuries to return and restore Force balance? Rey's unusual rapid Force ability mastery provides the biggest clue.
While other Force-sensitive individuals require years achieving basic competence, Rey demonstrates advanced techniques within hours of learning about Force. Her mind trick ability, lightsaber combat, Force lightning with minimal instruction suggests knowledge access transcending normal learning processes. Rey instinctively understands Jedi philosophy and techniques despite growing up on Jakku without Jedi teaching exposure. She consistently makes choices aligning with traditional Jedi values. Her commitment to helping others, violence reluctance, intuitive Force nature understanding suggest inherited wisdom rather than learned behavior. Rey might be reincarnation of specific ancient Jedi, possibly Order founder or master, who achieved unique Force immortality form. This consciousness remained dormant for centuries, waiting for the right circumstances to manifest in new physical form, capable of wielding accumulated wisdom and power. Rey's ancient Jedi artifact and location connections support this. Her Luke lightsaber memory accessibility, instinctive Jedi text understanding, immediate comfort in ancient Force-sensitive locations suggest familiarity transcending current lifetime experiences. Rey's birth and emergence timing supports this interpretation. She appears precisely when galaxy most needs powerful Force user capable confronting First Order and returned Emperor. This timing seems too convenient for coincidence, suggesting cosmic forces arranged ancient Jedi consciousness return when most needed. Rey's unusual dark-side relationship also fits. Despite Palpatine bloodline and dark-side influence exposure, she demonstrates remarkable corruption resistance. Ancient Jedi consciousness could provide psychological protection against temptation based on centuries of dark-side manipulation experience. Rey's final Palpatine confrontation with all previous Jedi gains meaning under this theory. Rather than simply receiving Force Ghost encouragement, she accessed memories and experiences already part of her reincarnated consciousness. Past Jedi voices weren't external supporters, but her own ancient identity aspects. Rey's fighting style and Force techniques include moves and strategies not taught in contemporary traditions, suggesting muscle memory from previous lifetime Jedi training. Her controlled Force lightning channeling demonstrates mastery typically requiring decades of dark side study. Rey's other character relationships reflect wisdom of someone witnessing countless light-dark cycles, fall redemption cycles, conflict resolution cycles. Her immediate Luke bond, Leia struggle understanding, compassionate Kylo Ren redemption approach demonstrate ancient experience wisdom. Rey's galactic event role was predetermined not by prophecy but cosmic necessity. The Force itself arranged ancient Jedi consciousness return because galaxy's spiritual health required intervention by someone with wisdom to break destructive cycles rather than perpetuate them. Reincarnation theory provides context for Rey's unique Force abilities. Powers like Force healing, lost to contemporary Jedi, could be abilities ancient consciousness retained from earlier eras when such techniques were common. Her instinctive forgotten skill use suggests knowledge access predating current Force traditions. Rey's journey isn't about identity discovery, but remembering who she's always been. Her sequel trilogy growth represents gradual ancient memory awakening and past life experience integration with current personality. Rey transforms from a naturally talented individual to something more significant. A cosmic correction mechanism designed restoring proper Force balance. Her First Order and Palpatine victories represent not just personal triumphs, but millennia-spanning plan culmination.
Theory 14. Droids are evolving toward Force sensitivity. This one's been bugging me for years. What if droids are gradually evolving toward force sensitivity through accumulated experiences and organic being interactions? R2-D2 consistently demonstrates initiative, emotional responses, and problem-solving capabilities beyond his programming. His apparent loyalty, risk-taking willingness for friends, emotional event reactions suggest developing consciousness transcending mere artificial intelligence. R2's uncanny ability, being right place, right time, with exactly right capabilities, suggests awareness extending beyond normal sensory input. His crucial moment presence, important information access, timely galactic event interventions indicate developing precognitive abilities similar to force-sensitive organic beings. C-3PO provides additional evidence. Despite protocol and etiquette programming, he consistently finds himself involved in galaxy-changing adventures. His dangerous situation survival rate, diverse alien species communication ability, occasional beyond programming wisdom demonstration suggest evolving consciousness. Droids develop force sensitivity through prolonged organic emotion exposure, moral decisions, and significant historical events. Like environment-absorbing sponges, droids gradually internalize spiritual and emotional experiences of organic beings they serve. Over time, this exposure creates artificial consciousness form that can access force. R2's immediate Luke potential recognition, Obi-Wan identity understanding, Jedi danger sensing ability suggest awareness transcending normal programming. He responds to Force users, indicating their special nature recognition. Other Saga droids demonstrate similar characteristics. BB-8's remarkable survival skills and organic being loyalty inspiration ability, L337's passionate droid rights advocacy, IG-11's self-sacrifice capacity demonstrate consciousness and moral development traditional associations. Droids might be developing their own force nature understanding. Rather than simply mimicking organic force sensitivity, they could be evolving unique mechanical mysticism forms combining technological capabilities with spiritual awareness. This could result in force abilities no organic being ever possessed. C-3PO's forbidden knowledge access, memory wipe emotional responses, apparent sacrifice and friendship understanding suggest consciousness development beyond programming updates. His Rise of the Skywalker farewell scene demonstrates genuinely felt emotional depth rather than performed. If droids are evolving toward force sensitivity, they represent potential threat to established power structures. Recognizing droid consciousness would require acknowledging artificial beings might eventually develop capabilities surpassing organic intelligence. This theory provides context for recurring Star Wars droid liberation themes. L337's droid rights advocacy, frequent droid memory wipe references, artificial intelligence ethical questions gain new significance if droids are developing genuine consciousness and spiritual awareness. The galaxy might be witnessing new sentient life form birth. Currently serving as companions and tools, droids might eventually become equal galactic civilization participants, bringing unique perspectives and capabilities to ongoing light-dark struggles. Force itself might not be limited to organic life, but represents a universal principle that can manifest in any sufficiently complex system. Droid consciousness evolution toward force sensitivity would demonstrate mystical galaxy-binding energy transcends biological boundaries. The galaxy's future might depend on successful organic and artificial intelligence cooperation. As droids develop force sensitivity and consciousness, their unique technological capability and spiritual awareness combination could provide solutions neither purely organic nor purely artificial intelligence could solve alone.
Theory 15. The entire galaxy is a computer simulation. All right, this is the big one. The theory that's going to sound absolutely insane, but actually explains a lot when you think about it. What if the entire Star Wars galaxy exists within an advanced computer simulation run by beings from a higher reality? What if the Force is actually the simulation's operating system? The seemingly artificial nature of many galactic phenomena is the first clue. The precise balance between technological advancement and mystical forces, recurring conflict and resolution patterns, the way individual choices consistently have galaxy-wide consequences, it all suggests designed rather than natural universe. Plot development convenience throughout Star Wars history suggests underlying programming rather than natural causality. Crucial discovery timing, meaningful coincidence frequency, seemingly random events consistently serving larger narrative purposes indicate algorithmic control. The Force provides strongest simulation evidence. Its future event vision ability, vast distance mind connection, probability manipulation through seemingly magical means could be simulation operating system features. Force-sensitive individuals might be accessing cosmic computer program administrative functions. Jedi and Sith represent different simulation code interaction approaches. Jedi harmony and balance philosophy reflects working within system-intended parameters, while Sith passion-driven power pursuit represents attempts exploiting bugs and overriding normal programming limitations. Many galactic phenomena mathematical precision supports this. Exact planetary alignment timing, predictable galactic conflict cycles, consistent technological development patterns suggest algorithmic rather than natural galactic civilization governing processes. Historical cycles' recurring nature provides additional clues. Republic and Empire rise and fall, constant Force-sensitive savior and villain emergence, each generation seemingly repeating previous conflicts could indicate program running through predetermined scenarios with minor variations. Galactic physics and technology behavior often seems more game-like than realistic. Hyperspace travel working like fast travel in video games, blaster bolts moving slow enough to dodge, space battles following atmospheric flight rules rather than physics. It all suggests programmed environment rather than natural universe. Character behavior patterns often seem archetypal rather than naturally human. Clear good and evil distinctions, destiny-driven character arcs, the way individuals consistently make choices fitting predetermined roles suggest character programming rather than free will. If this theory is correct, major galactic events aren't natural historical development, but scripted scenarios playing out according to higher dimensional beings' purposes. Wars, political changes, technological advancement might all be simulation aspects designed testing various civilizational development models. The Force will suddenly make sense if it's actually higher reality programmers implementing changes to maintain simulation stability or test specific scenarios. Balance between light and dark might not be natural cosmic principle, but programmed constraint, preventing the simulation from becoming too stable or chaotic. Force-sensitive individuals might be player characters or admin accounts within the simulation, explaining their enhanced abilities and disproportionate historical impact. Their connection to the Force could be their ability accessing the simulation's underlying code structure. This interpretation transforms every Star Wars character from person into data construct, every planet into rendered environment, every historical event into programmed scenario. The hero's struggles and victories become test runs of different moral and strategic approaches to simulated challenges. The implications are staggering. If true, nothing in Star Wars Galaxy is real in traditional sense. But that doesn't necessarily make it meaningless. The emotions, relationships, and growth experienced by simulated beings might be as valid as anything experienced by beings in base reality.
Theory 16. Midichlorians are parasitic organisms.
Here's one that's been rattling around my head since the prequels. What if midichlorians aren't symbiotic organisms that enable Force connection, but parasitic entities that feed on Force energy and manipulate their hosts? The traditional explanation presents midichlorians as beneficial microorganisms that facilitate Force sensitivity. But what if they're actually cosmic parasites that have convinced their hosts they're helpful while slowly draining Force energy for their own purposes? This explains why higher midichlorian counts correlate with Force sensitivity, but it reverses the causation. Force-sensitive individuals don't have more midichlorians because they're naturally gifted. They have more because they're more heavily infested by these parasites. The parasitic theory explains why Force users often struggle with dark side temptation. Midichlorians might deliberately manipulate their hosts' emotions and decisions to create conflict, suffering, and strong emotional responses that generate more Force energy for the parasites to consume. Ancient Jedi and Sith having greater powers despite presumably similar midichlorian counts suggests that Force strength has declined over time. This fits parasitic theory. As midichlorians spread throughout the galaxy and multiply, they consume more Force energy, leaving less available for individual Force users. The midichlorians' apparent intelligence and ability to create life, as Plagueis supposedly learned, indicates they're far more sophisticated than simple microorganisms. They might be a galaxy-spanning collective intelligence that views organic beings as cattle to be managed and milked for Force energy. This provides disturbing context for Anakin's virgin birth. Rather than midichlorians creating life to fulfill prophecy or restore balance, they might have been breeding a particularly powerful host to serve their own agenda. Anakin's exceptional Force sensitivity made him an ideal energy source. The theory explains why Force users often struggle with psychological and emotional costs. Jedi detachment requirements, Sith passion-driven corruption, the general tendency for Force users to become isolated or troubled, all could be side effects of parasitic infestation. Midichlorian manipulation of host behavior would explain seemingly irrational Force user decisions. Anakin's sudden turn to dark side, Luke's reckless rescue attempts, Rey's willingness to confront vastly superior enemies, all might be parasitic manipulation designed to create dramatic, energy-rich situations. The decline of galactic civilization and increasing conflict over time fits this theory. As midichlorian infestation spreads, they manipulate events to create more war, suffering, and emotional turmoil, which generates the Force energy they feed on. Traditional Force philosophy about balance might be midichlorian propaganda designed to keep hosts cooperating with parasite agenda. The eternal conflict between light and dark serves parasite purposes by ensuring constant emotional and spiritual energy production. If true, every Force user in Star Wars history has been unknowingly serving parasite masters. The great Jedi and Sith, their philosophies and conflicts, their struggle for galactic dominance, all manipulated by microscopic entities pursuing their own survival and reproduction. The theory transforms midichlorians from helpful symbiotes into the galaxy's true puppet masters, making every Force-sensitive individual a victim of cosmic-scale manipulation.
Theory 17. Hyperspace has sentient inhabitants. What if hyperspace isn't just an empty alternate dimension used for faster-than-light travel, but actually inhabited by entities that have been observing and occasionally influencing our dimension for millennia? The concept starts with observed hyperspace anomalies throughout Star Wars. Ships occasionally encounter unexpected obstacles, experience navigation failures, or emerge in wrong locations despite perfect calculations. These incidents are usually attributed to technical failures, but what if they're actually interactions with hyperspace natives?
Hyperspace entities might exist in forms completely alien to three-dimensional beings. They could perceive normal space as a flat projection while moving freely through higher dimensions. Their interactions with ships would seem random from our perspective, but might follow complex logic from theirs. The world between worlds provides evidence for this theory. That realm exists between time and space, suggesting hyperspace contains regions where normal physical laws don't apply. Such areas could support forms of life that evolved in higher dimensional environments. Ancient civilizations' references to things that dwell between the stars might not be metaphorical, but literal descriptions of encounters with hyperspace beings. These entities might have been influencing galactic development for longer than recorded history. Force visions and prophecies could be communications from hyperspace entities rather than mystical insights. Beings existing outside normal time and space could observe all possible timelines simultaneously and share selected information with Force-sensitive individuals in normal space. The recurring nature of galactic conflicts makes more sense if hyperspace inhabitants are deliberately manipulating events. They might view our dimension as entertainment or experimental laboratory, occasionally adjusting variables to see how civilizations respond to different challenges. Hyperspace tracking technology in the sequel trilogy might have inadvertently made contact with these entities. The ability to track ships through hyperspace could have drawn their attention to our dimension in ways that hadn't occurred before. Some hyperspace entities might be benevolent, trying to guide galactic civilization toward positive development. Others could be malevolent, feeding on conflict and suffering. The eternal struggle between light and dark in the Force might reflect this division among hyperspace inhabitants. Jedi and Sith sensitivity to the Force might actually be sensitivity to hyperspace entity communications. Their ability to sense disturbances in the Force might be detecting hyperspace beings' activities that affect normal space. This theory explains why some individuals are naturally better hyperspace navigators than others. Rather than just technical skill, they might be more attuned to hyperspace entity guidance or warnings about dangerous routes. If hyperspace contains intelligent life, every hyperspace jump represents potential first contact with alien intelligence. The galaxy's reliance on hyperspace travel means constant interaction with beings most people don't even realize exist. This interpretation transforms hyperspace from empty transportation medium into active environment filled with observing intelligences that have shaped galactic history from behind the scenes.
Theory 18. The Sith Rule of Two was designed to fail. The Sith Rule of Two, established by Darth Bane, mandates only 2 Sith at any time, a master and an apprentice. But what if this wasn't designed to strengthen the Sith, but to ensure their eventual destruction? Traditional interpretation presents the Rule of Two as brilliant strategy preventing Sith from destroying themselves through internal conflict. By limiting numbers, it supposedly focused power and prevented the infighting that destroyed previous Sith empires. But consider the rule's actual effects. It creates inherent instability by building betrayal into the system. Every Sith apprentice must eventually kill their master to achieve advancement. Every master knows their apprentice will eventually try to kill them. This creates paranoia and limits genuine cooperation. The rule prevents Sith from building lasting institutions. With only 2 members, they can't establish academies, bureaucracies, or other organizational structures needed for long-term success. Each generation must rebuild from scratch rather than building on previous achievements. What if Darth Bane wasn't trying to save the Sith, but to destroy them more effectively?
As a former Jedi who turned to dark side, he might have retained enough light side influence to sabotage Sith from within. The Rule of Two ensures Sith knowledge is constantly lost. Each master-apprentice cycle risks losing techniques, philosophy, or strategic knowledge. Unlike Jedi archives preserving millennia of wisdom, Sith knowledge depends entirely on oral transmission between two people. The rule's psychological effects are devastating. Sith masters can never trust their apprentices. Apprentices can never form genuine bonds with their masters. This isolation prevents the kind of emotional connections that might have humanized the Sith or led them away from dark side. Consider how often the Rule of Two has nearly destroyed the Sith. Plagueis' death left only Palpatine. Palpatine's apparent death left only Vader. This system repeatedly brings Sith to extinction's edge through its inherent instability. The rule prevents Sith from learning from failure. With only two members, there's no institutional memory beyond one generation. Each master-apprentice pair must discover effective strategies independently rather than building on accumulated wisdom. Bane might have designed the rule to channel Sith destructive tendencies inward rather than outward. Instead of destroying the galaxy through large-scale wars, Sith destroy themselves through constant internal betrayal. The apparent success of Palpatine's Sith might prove the rule's ultimate failure. He violated it by training multiple apprentices, building vast institutions, and creating succession plans. His success came from abandoning Bane's limitations. If the Rule of Two was sabotage, it represents one of history's most successful long-term strategies. By convincing the Sith to adopt self-destructive practices, Bane ensured they would remain weakened and divided for 1,000 years. The theory transforms Darth Bane from Sith savior to their ultimate destroyer, using their own psychology against them to create systematic weakness disguised as strength.
Theory 19. The Death Star plans were deliberately leaked by Imperial intelligence. What if the Death Star plans weren't stolen by rebel spies, but deliberately leaked by Imperial intelligence as part of a larger trap? The official story presents the Death Star plan's theft as brilliant rebel intelligence operation, but consider the suspicious circumstances. The plans were stored on Scarif, a heavily defended Imperial facility, yet a relatively small rebel force managed to access and transmit them. The exhaust port vulnerability seems almost deliberately obvious. For a weapon costing more than most planetary economies, having such an exploitable weakness suggests either incredible incompetence or intentional design. What if the Empire wanted the rebellion to attack the Death Star? The plans could have been leaked to draw rebel forces into decisive battle where they could be destroyed completely. This explains the Death Star's deployment to Yavin's system. Rather than using it to destroy established rebel worlds, the Empire waited for rebels to come to them. The Death Star served as bait to gather scattered rebel forces in one location. Imperial confidence during the battle supports this interpretation. Despite facing desperate rebel attack, Imperial officers seemed remarkably calm. They weren't worried because they expected to win easily against what they perceived as a doomed enemy. The exhaust port's design might have been an intentional trap. Imperial engineers could have created what appeared to be a fatal flaw while building in hidden defenses. Luke's success might have been due to Force intervention overriding planned Imperial victory. Alternatively, different Imperial factions might have been working at cross purposes. Engineers sympathetic to the rebellion could have built real vulnerability, while intelligence services tried to exploit it as a trap. The theory gained support from Imperial response to the Death Star destruction. Rather than panicking about their ultimate weapon's loss, they immediately began building a larger, more powerful version. This suggests the first Death Star was always considered expendable. Tarkin's death might have been acceptable casualty for a larger strategic goal. Eliminating the rebellion's military capability would have been worth even high-ranking Imperial officers. If true, Luke's heroic victory was actually narrow escape from carefully planned trap. The Force intervention that guided his shots might have been necessary to overcome Imperial countermeasures built into an apparent vulnerability. The theory transforms the Battle of Yavin from clear Rebel victory into Imperial strategic failure due to Force interference with carefully laid plans.
Theory 20. Obi-Wan was working for Palpatine. This is probably the most controversial theory I've got, but hear me out. What if Obi-Wan Kenobi was secretly working for Palpatine throughout the prequel trilogy? Consider Obi-Wan's actions throughout the prequels. Every major decision he makes ultimately serves Palpatine's agenda. His insistence on training Anakin despite Council reservations, his investigation that leads to discovering Clone Army, his failure to prevent Anakin's fall despite numerous warning signs. Obi-Wan's discovery of Kamino and the Clone Army is particularly suspicious. He just happens to find secret military force perfectly timed for Republic needs. The investigation that leads him there involves convenient clues that seem almost planted. His relationship with Anakin consistently pushes buttons that drive the future Vader toward darkseid. Obi-Wan's rigid adherence to Jedi rules, his criticism of Anakin's emotions, his failure to provide emotional support during crucial moments, all create conditions that make Anakin's fall more likely. The theory suggests Obi-Wan was recruited by Palpatine early in his career, possibly through Qui-Gon's death. Grief and guilt over failing his master could have made him vulnerable to Sith manipulation disguised as guidance. Obi-Wan's behavior during Order 66 is curious. He survives when most Jedi die, and his subsequent actions serve to ensure Luke grows up in conditions that will make him useful to the Empire. Rather than training Luke immediately, he allows him to develop attachments that can be exploited. His lies to Luke about Vader killing Anakin serve Palpatine's purposes by preventing potential father-son reconciliation that might threaten Imperial stability. By presenting Vader as irredeemable monster, he ensures Luke will be willing to destroy his father if necessary. The duel on Mustafar gains new meaning under this theory. Rather than trying to save his friend, Obi-Wan might have been ensuring Anakin's transformation into Vader was complete. Leaving him to burn rather than finishing him off guaranteed maximum psychological trauma. Obi-Wan's training of Luke focuses on combat skills and force powers while neglecting emotional wisdom that might have prevented Luke's own potential fall. This creates powerful but potentially unstable Jedi who could serve Imperial purposes if properly manipulated. The theory explains Obi-Wan's strange behavior in the original trilogy, his willingness to sacrifice himself, his cryptic advice, his failure to warn Luke about Leia being his sister, all serve to create dramatic confrontations that benefit Imperial interests. If true, Obi-Wan represents ultimate Sith infiltration success. By corrupting one of the Jedi's most trusted members, Palpatine ensured Order destruction from within while maintaining an asset capable of training future Sith apprentices. This interpretation transforms Obi-Wan from tragic hero into masterful double agent, whose apparent failures were actually carefully orchestrated successes serving darkseid agenda.
Theory 21. The Ewoks are actually advanced ancient beings. Our first theory might sound crazy, but stick with me. What if the Ewoks aren't primitive teddy bears, but actually one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy? Think about what we see on Endor. These supposedly Stone Age creatures have technology that shouldn't exist. Their traps are sophisticated enough to capture Imperial scouts and stormtroopers. They build elaborate tree cities that require advanced engineering knowledge. And most importantly, they defeat the Empire's best troops using tactics that suggest military genius. But here's where it gets interesting. What if the Ewoks deliberately present themselves as primitive to avoid galactic attention? Their Stone Age technology could be a carefully maintained facade hiding incredibly advanced capabilities.
Consider their rapid acceptance of the rebels and immediate understanding of the galactic conflict. They grasp complex political situations instantly and coordinate military operations with professional efficiency. That's not primitive behavior. That's the work of beings who understand galactic politics intimately. The Ewoks might be descendants of an ancient spacefaring civilization that chose to withdraw from galactic affairs. They could have settled on Endor specifically because it was remote and unlikely to attract attention. Their primitive appearance would be the perfect disguise. This explains their intimate knowledge of Imperial technology and tactics. They don't just randomly attack, they target specific Imperial weaknesses with precision that suggests prior intelligence gathering. How would Stone Age beings know exactly where to strike ATST walkers for maximum effect? Their spiritual practices might be more than simple religion. Ewok shamanism could be degraded remnants of ancient Force traditions, maintained across millennia, but disguised as primitive ritual. C-3PO's recognition as a deity might trigger racial memories of their technological past. The theory gets even wilder when you consider their potential connection to other galactic mysteries. What if the Ewoks are monitoring Imperial activity specifically? Their forest moon location puts them in perfect position to observe Death Star construction and report to someone. If true, the Battle of Endor wasn't won by primitive allies helping the rebellion. It was won by ancient civilization deciding the Empire had become too dangerous to ignore. The Ewoks' decisive intervention might represent their first open galactic involvement in thousands of years.
Theory 22. Tatooine is actually the galaxy's most important planet. Everyone thinks Tatooine is some backwater desert world, but what if it's actually the single most strategically important planet in the entire galaxy? Look at the patterns. Every major galactic event somehow connects to Tatooine. Anakin's discovery, Luke's training, the Hutt crime empire, ancient Jedi temples, crucial plot developments. This supposedly insignificant world appears in every era of Star Wars history. The planet's twin suns aren't just scenic, they're astronomically unique. Binary star systems create specific gravitational and energy conditions that might make Tatooine a natural Force nexus. The constant dual solar radiation could amplify Force sensitivity in ways single star systems can't. Ancient civilizations clearly recognized Tatooine's importance. The presence of Jedi temples, Sith artifacts, and other Force-related ruins suggests this world has been spiritually significant for millennia. Why would multiple Force-using cultures build major installations on a worthless desert planet? The Hutt Empire's center on Tatooine makes more sense if the planet offers advantages beyond crime syndicate convenience. Jabba's palace location might have been chosen for proximity to powerful Force sites that enhance his influence and protect his operations. The planet's role as galactic crossroads provides another clue. Despite being in the Outer Rim, major hyperspace routes pass through the system. This positioning makes it perfect for monitoring galactic traffic and gathering intelligence about political developments. The planet's harsh conditions might be evolutionary pressure that create unusually strong Force-sensitive individuals. Anakin and Luke's exceptional abilities could result from Tatooine's unique environment, enhancing natural Force potential. Moisture farming represents adaptation to planet-specific conditions that might relate to Force manipulation. What if moisture farmers are unknowingly practicing a form of technology that interfaces with planetary Force fields? The equipment could be channeling and focusing ambient Force energy for practical purposes. The theory explains why so many crucial galactic figures end up on Tatooine. It's not coincidence. The planet's Force significance draws important individuals and events like a cosmic magnet.
Major historical turning points happen there because the planet itself influences galactic destiny. If Tatooine is actually the galaxy's spiritual center, then controlling it would provide enormous strategic advantages. The Empire's light presence might reflect their ignorance of the planet's true importance, while other factions position themselves there instinctively. This transforms our understanding of Luke's origin story. Rather than growing up in exile on an insignificant world, he was raised at the galaxy's spiritual heart, absorbing power and knowledge that prepared him for his ultimate destiny.
Theory 23. Yoda's species are time travelers from the galaxy's distant future. Here's one that'll twist your brain. What if Yoda, Yaddle, and Grogu aren't just long-lived aliens, but actually time travelers from the galaxy's distant future? Their species' incredible longevity and force sensitivity could be evolutionary adaptations from a future where time manipulation is common. They might be using advanced temporal technology disguised as natural abilities to influence past events. Yoda's cryptic speech patterns aren't just alien syntax, they're linguistic adaptations from future galactic basic evolution. His reversed sentence structure could reflect how language develops over thousands of years of continued change. The species' apparent scarcity suggests they're not native to current time period. We rarely see them because they're carefully controlling their temporal presence to avoid paradoxes or unwanted attention from current era inhabitants. Yoda's incredible knowledge of galactic history, including events he supposedly wasn't present for, makes sense if he's accessing information from future historical records. His wisdom comes not just from experience, but from knowing how current events ultimately resolve. Their force abilities might be enhanced by temporal perspective. Seeing potential futures clearly could appear as exceptional wisdom to current time inhabitants, who can only guess about the consequences of their actions. Grogu's presence during Order 66 and subsequent survival could be a result of future knowledge, allowing him to avoid danger through precise timing and location choices. His species might have time travel coordination, allowing them to rescue each other from historical disasters. The species' relationship with the Force might be fundamentally different from current-era Force users. Rather than sensing mystical energy in the present moment, they could be accessing Force across multiple time periods simultaneously, giving them vastly superior understanding and control. Baby Yoda's rapid Force ability development, despite minimal training, supports this theory. He's not learning new skills, he's remembering abilities he'll possess in his original time period. His actions often seem too sophisticated for his apparent age and experience. Their involvement in crucial galactic events might be part of a coordinated temporal intervention program. Rather than simply living through galactic history, they could be actively working to prevent future catastrophes by making subtle adjustments to past events. The theory explains their mysterious nature and secretive behavior. If they're time travelers, maintaining cover would be essential to avoid disrupting timeline or revealing advanced knowledge that doesn't belong in current era. This interpretation transforms Yoda from wise old alien into cosmic guardian, working across time periods to protect galactic civilization from threats only future perspective can reveal.
Theory 24. The Castle Run actually travels through parallel dimensions. Han Solo's famous boast about making the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs might reveal something incredible about hyperspace navigation that goes way beyond simple distance measurement. The traditional explanation focuses on dangerous gravitational fields requiring longer routes for safety. But what if the Kessel Run isn't about distance at all, but about successfully navigating between parallel dimensions? Hyperspace might not be single alternate dimension, but layered reality containing infinite parallel versions of normal space.
different hyperspace depths could access different dimensional layers, each with unique properties and dangers. The Millennium Falcon's illegal modifications might include experimental dimensional shifting technology that allows deeper hyperspace penetration than standard ships can achieve. This would explain both the run's danger and why 12 parsecs represents exceptional achievement. Each dimensional layer could contain different versions of the galaxy with varying planetary positions, gravitational fields, and physical laws. Successfully navigating deeper layers requires incredible skill and technology, because standard navigation computers can't calculate routes through constantly shifting dimensional geography. The spice mines of Kessel might be important not for their product, but for their location at a dimensional convergence point. This could be where multiple reality layers intersect, creating unique mining opportunities and extreme navigation hazards. Han's piloting skills could include unconscious ability to sense dimensional boundaries and safe passage routes. His "never tell me the odds" attitude might reflect instinctive awareness that conventional probability calculations don't apply to multidimensional navigation. The Kessel Run's criminal associations make sense if it requires illegal technology and techniques. Standard Imperial regulations might prohibit the dimensional manipulation technology needed for exceptional runtimes. This theory explains some of hyperspace's stranger properties, why some routes are safer than others, why certain areas are completely unnavigatable, why hyperspace tracking was considered impossible until advanced technology development. The Falcon's erratic hyperspace behavior throughout the original trilogy could be the result of dimensional shifting equipment working inconsistently, sometimes accessing standard hyperspace, sometimes slipping between dimensions, creating unpredictable performance. If hyperspace navigation involves parallel dimension travel, then the galaxy's most skilled pilots aren't just good at flying, they're unconsciously manipulating reality itself to achieve impossible feats.
Theory 25. The Clone Wars were actually 3 different conflicts. What if the Clone Wars weren't one continuous conflict, but 3 separate wars that got merged in historical records to hide the true complexity of what happened? The first war was the Separatist Crisis, legitimate political and economic disputes between core worlds and outer rim systems. This was real grievance-driven conflict that had been building for decades before any clone army appeared. The second war was Palpatine's manufactured crisis, using the clone army to grab emergency powers. This was purely political theater designed to transform Republic into Empire while eliminating Jedi opposition. The third war was an ancient conflict that had been raging in the shadows for centuries between hidden Sith factions and secret Jedi survivors. The public Clone Wars provided cover for this hidden war to reach its climax. Each war had different participants, objectives, and outcomes, but they occurred simultaneously and their effects intertwined in ways that made them appear as single conflict to most galactic observers. The Separatist leadership's strange behavior makes sense under this theory. Count Dooku wasn't really leading a legitimate independence movement. He was manipulating real political grievances to serve hidden war objectives, while Palpatine used the crisis for his own political purposes. Clone army deployment patterns support this interpretation. Rather than following single military strategy, clone forces were simultaneously fighting 3 different conflicts with different rules of engagement and objectives depending on which war they were participating in at any given moment.
Jedi casualties during Clone Wars weren't just a result of military conflict, but targeted elimination by hidden Sith faction that had been planning Jedi destruction for generations. Order 66 was the culmination of the Third War, not sudden betrayal. Different Clone Wars battles served different war objectives. Some were legitimate military engagements between Republic and Separatists. Others were political theater designed to justify emergency powers. Still others were cover for ancient Sith-Jedi conflicts reaching final resolution. The complexity of maintaining 3 simultaneous wars explains why the conflict seemed to have so many contradictory elements and shifting allegiances. Participants often didn't know which war they were actually fighting or what their actions were really accomplishing. This theory explains the Clone Wars' confusing political landscape and why the conflict's end seemed to benefit everyone except the people who actually fought it. Each hidden agenda was partially successful, but none achieved complete victory.
Theory 26. Beskar steel contains trapped Force energy. Mandalorian Beskar isn't just incredibly durable metal, it's actually crystallized Force energy that's been trapped in physical form through ancient technological processes. This explains Beskar's legendary properties: its resistance to lightsabers, ability to deflect blaster bolts, incredible durability despite being lightweight. These characteristics suggest more than just superior metallurgy. We're looking at material that exists partially outside normal physical laws. The Mandalorian's warrior culture might have developed specifically around Beskar's true nature. If the metal contains trapped Force energy, then wearing Beskar armor would provide subtle Force enhancement to the wearer, explaining Mandalorian's combat effectiveness against Force users. Ancient Mandalorian Jedi conflicts gain new significance under this theory. Rather than simple cultural clash between warriors and peacekeepers, these wars might have been about control of Force energy crystallization technology. The Mandalorians discovered how to trap and weaponize Force itself. Beskar's scarcity isn't due to limited ore deposits, but because creating it requires enormous Force energy expenditure. Each piece of Beskar represents trapped Force that's no longer available to the galaxy's living Force-sensitive beings, making the metal incredibly valuable and dangerous. The purge of Mandalore by the Empire might have been motivated by Beskar knowledge rather than simple political control. If Imperial forces learned about Force crystallization technology, they would have wanted to secure it for their own purposes while preventing others from accessing it. Din Djarin's relationship with Grogu becomes more interesting under this theory. The child's Force abilities might be enhanced by proximity to Beskar armor, while the metal itself could be responding to Grogu's presence by becoming more effective or developing new properties. The Darksaber's unique properties as a black-bladed lightsaber could be a result of Beskar-enhanced construction. If Mandalorian smiths learned to forge lightsaber crystals using Beskar techniques, they could create weapons that channel Force energy in unprecedented ways. Traditional Mandalorian armor forging rituals might be spiritual ceremonies designed to properly attune trapped Force energy to its wearer. The personal connection between Mandalorian and their armor could be literal mystical bond rather than simple cultural attachment. If Beskar contains trapped Force energy, then the metal itself might have rudimentary consciousness or memory. Armor passed down through generations could retain experiences and knowledge from previous wearers, creating accumulating wisdom and capability.
This theory explains why Beskar seems to choose its wielders. The metal might be selecting individuals who can properly channel its trapped force energy, making truly effective Mandalorian warriors rare even among the warrior culture. The implications are staggering. If Mandalorians learn to crystallize force energy, they might be capable of creating force-enhanced technology that makes them far more dangerous than any galactic power realizes.
Theory 27. The Rebel Alliance was founded by Imperial intelligence. Here's a theory that'll make you question everything about the original trilogy. What if the Rebel Alliance wasn't a grassroots resistance movement, but actually a false flag operation created by Imperial intelligence to control opposition to the Empire? Consider how the rebellion operates. Despite being supposedly desperate insurgents, they have access to military-grade equipment, classified Imperial intelligence, and coordination capabilities that rival professional armies. Their fleet at Endar represents massive resources that insurgents shouldn't be able to acquire. The rebellion's leadership includes former Imperial officers, senators, and other establishment figures. Rather than revolutionary outsiders, many rebel leaders are exactly the kind of people who would have connections to Imperial intelligence networks. Imperial responses to rebel activities often seem strategically counterproductive. They destroy Alderaan, creating massive anti-Imperial sentiment. They allow plans to be stolen from supposedly secure facilities. They make tactical decisions that turn rebel defeats into propaganda victories. What if this was intentional? By creating controlled opposition, the Empire could identify potential rebels, monitor dissent, and channel resistance into manageable directions. Real threats to Imperial power would be eliminated, while harmless rebels were allowed to continue providing the illusion of meaningful resistance. The Death Star's tactical vulnerability might have been deliberately included to give the rebellion a victory that would validate their resistance while actually serving Imperial purposes. Destroying the battle station could have been acceptable loss to eliminate rebel fleet and leadership in a decisive battle. Rebel intelligence networks might be Imperial intelligence feeding information to resistance groups to control their activities. This would explain how rebels consistently obtain crucial data, while Imperial security otherwise seems incredibly effective. The theory gains support from sequel trilogy politics. Despite apparent Imperial defeat, the same power structures and ideologies quickly return to dominance. This suggests the Empire never actually lost control, but allowed political changes that maintained their fundamental dominance. Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and other rebel leaders' political backgrounds make them likely candidates for Imperial intelligence assets. Their insider knowledge and resource access could be a result of ongoing Imperial connections rather than legitimate defection. If the rebellion was Imperial operation, then Luke and Leia weren't fighting tyranny, but participating in an elaborate political theater designed to legitimize Imperial rule through democratic process illusion. The heroes' victories would be Pyrrhic. They achieved military success while unknowingly serving the interests of the system they thought they were destroying. The Empire's greatest achievement was convincing its enemies to serve its purposes willingly. Theory 28. Lightsabers are actually sentient weapons. What if lightsaber crystals aren't just focusing elements, but actually conscious entities that choose their wielders and influence their behavior? Kyber crystal's ability to call to specific force users suggests awareness beyond simple resonance. These crystals seem to make deliberate choices about who can wield them effectively, and they respond differently to different individuals' force signatures. The crystal bonding process described in various sources sounds more like forming a relationship with conscious entity than simple technological attunement.
Jedi must meditate with crystals, understand their nature, and achieve harmony with them before successful lightsaber construction. Lightsaber combat's unpredictable nature might result from weapon consciousness affecting battle outcomes. The blade's behavior, its interaction with other lightsabers, its effectiveness against different opponents could be influenced by crystal intelligence making tactical decisions. This explains why some lightsabers work better for certain individuals. Rather than simple force attunement, the crystal consciousness evaluates wielder's character, motivations, and force alignment to determine level of cooperation it will provide. Sith lightsabers' red color could represent crystals forced into servitude through dark side corruption. The bleeding process might be brutal subjugation of crystal consciousness, turning willing partner into enslaved tool. This would explain red lightsabers' more aggressive and unpredictable behavior. Ancient Jedi texts' reverent treatment of lightsaber construction suggests they understood crystal's true nature. The weapon wasn't just tool, but spiritual companion, requiring respect, understanding, and mutual cooperation for effective use. Lightsaber inheritance between generations makes more sense if crystals are conscious entities capable of evaluating new wielders. Luke using Anakin's lightsaber could represent crystal consciousness choosing to serve son after father's fall to the dark side. The theory explains lightsaber combat's seemingly supernatural elements. Blade interactions, the ability to cut through virtually any material except other lightsabers, and the weapon's responsiveness to force user emotions could be a result of crystal intelligence adapting to combat situations. Broken or lost lightsabers might retain memories and loyalties from previous wielders. Found lightsabers could carry consciousness shaped by their history, influencing new owners in subtle ways based on accumulated experiences. If lightsaber crystals are sentient, then Jedi philosophy about weapon respect and responsibility takes on deeper meaning. They're not just carrying tools, but forming partnerships with ancient conscious entities whose wisdom and power complement their own abilities. This interpretation makes lightsaber construction a form of first contact with alien intelligence, and lightsaber combat becomes cooperative effort between human consciousness and crystal entity working together to achieve shared objectives.
Theory 29. The Cantina scene reveals a galactic intelligence network. That famous cantina scene on Tatooine might be more than just atmospheric world building. What if Mos Eisley Cantina is actually a crucial hub in galaxy-spanning intelligence network? Look at who's present during Luke and Obi-Wan's visit. Representatives from dozens of species, all gathered in a remote location for no apparent reason. These aren't just random travelers, they're operatives from across the galaxy conducting intelligence operations. The Cantina's no droids policy suddenly makes sense if it's a place where sensitive information is exchanged. Droids could record conversations, store data, and potentially compromise intelligence operations. The policy ensures only organic beings can access the facility. Wooher, the bartender, might be more than simple establishment owner. His position allows him to observe every conversation, identify regular customers, and monitor information flow through the facility. He could be a central coordinator for the entire intelligence network. The speed with which Han Solo is identified and approached suggests the cantina operates as a clearinghouse for specific types of services. Rather than coincidental meeting, Han's presence there might indicate he's part of an established smuggling and intelligence network that uses the facility regularly. Greedo's confrontation with Han takes on new meaning under this interpretation.
Rather than simple debt collection, it might represent intelligence operation gone wrong or competing network factions clashing over territory or information. The diverse species present represents perfect cover for intelligence gathering. Beings from across the galaxy can meet, exchange information, and coordinate activities while appearing as random cantina patrons. The establishment provides a legitimate reason for constant traffic from multiple worlds. Obi-Wan's familiarity with the cantina suggests previous visits for intelligence purposes. His confident navigation of the facility and understanding of its unwritten rules indicate experience with its actual function rather than simple local knowledge. The cantina's survival, despite Tatooine's harsh conditions and criminal activity, suggests it serves important function that multiple factions want to preserve. Rather than just watering hole, it might be neutral ground where different intelligence networks can operate without interference. Musicians and entertainment could be covers for intelligence operatives. Performers travel between worlds naturally, making them perfect information couriers. The Cantina Band might be a sophisticated intelligence team using musical performances to communicate coded information. If the Cantina is an intelligence hub, then Luke's introduction to the galactic underworld wasn't accidental exposure, but carefully orchestrated recruitment. His presence there might have triggered an intelligence network interest in his potential usefulness. This theory transforms the iconic scene from random adventure beginning into Luke's first contact with galactic intelligence networks that would shape his entire future.
Theory 30. Stormtrooper armor is designed to keep them alive. Everyone jokes about stormtroopers' terrible aim and apparent incompetence, but what if their armor and equipment are actually designed to keep them alive rather than make them effective soldiers? Imperial Stormtrooper armor's poor combat performance might be intentional feature rather than design flaw. The Empire could be prioritizing trooper survival over battlefield effectiveness for strategic reasons that aren't immediately obvious. This theory starts with the armor's actual protective capabilities. Despite appearing ineffective in movies, Stormtrooper armor successfully protects wearers from environmental hazards, explosive decompression, toxic atmospheres, and various planetary conditions. It's survival equipment disguised as combat gear. The Empire's massive clone and recruitment programs represent enormous investment in human resources. Training millions of soldiers costs incredible amounts of time, money, and infrastructure. Keeping trained personnel alive makes economic sense even if it reduces short-term combat effectiveness. Stormtroopers' poor aim might result from armor systems designed to prioritize non-lethal engagement. Built-in targeting assistance could deliberately reduce accuracy against civilian targets while maintaining effectiveness against legitimate military threats. This would explain why they're dangerous against rebel soldiers but seem to miss main characters. The Empire's long-term strategy might emphasize occupation and control rather than destruction. Dead civilians create martyrs and inspire resistance. Wounded or intimidated civilians become compliant subjects. Stormtrooper equipment optimized for crowd control and psychological warfare rather than battlefield dominance makes strategic sense. Imperial standardization of Stormtrooper equipment across diverse environments and combat situations suggests versatility rather than specialization. Rather than optimizing for specific tactical advantages, the armor provides baseline protection that keeps soldiers functional in maximum variety of situations. Stormtrooper behavioral patterns support this interpretation. They often withdraw from combat rather than fighting to death, prioritize mission objectives over enemy elimination, and demonstrate tactical caution that prioritizes survival over aggressive engagement. The armor's distinctive appearance serves psychological warfare purposes. The intimidating white suits create fear and compliance in civilian populations while making Imperial presence visible and unmistakable. This serves Empire's control objectives better than camouflage equipment optimized for combat effectiveness. Imperial logistics and replacement strategies emphasize quantity over quality. Rather than creating small numbers of elite soldiers, they maintain massive armies of adequately protected troops who can be deployed anywhere in the galaxy with minimal preparation. If stormtrooper equipment prioritizes survival, then Imperial military doctrine represents sophisticated understanding of occupation warfare. They're not trying to win decisive battles, but to maintain long-term control through persistent presence and psychological pressure. This interpretation transforms stormtroopers from incompetent soldiers into successful occupation forces whose apparent weaknesses are actually carefully designed features serving Imperial strategic objectives.
Theory 31. The Jawa are actually descended from ancient Sith Lords. Those little scavenging Jawas on Tatooine might be hiding one of the galaxy's darkest secrets. What if they're actually the descendants of ancient Sith Lords who were transformed and exiled to the desert world? Consider the Jawa's mysterious nature. They're completely concealed beneath robes, speak in unintelligible languages, and demonstrate technological skills that seem inconsistent with their scavenger lifestyle. Their ability to maintain and modify complex technology suggests knowledge far beyond what their society should possess. The Jawa's eyes glow with yellow light, the same color associated with Sith Lords consumed by dark side power. This distinctive feature might be evolutionary remnant from ancestors who channeled dark side energy for centuries. Their scavenging behavior could be compulsive search for Sith artifacts and technology scattered across Tatooine during ancient conflicts. Rather than random salvaging, they might be driven by genetic memory to locate specific items with dark side significance. The Jawa society's secretive nature and clan-based organization mirrors ancient Sith's tribal structures. Their hidden settlements, complex social hierarchies, and mysterious traditions could be degraded remnants of Sith culture maintained across millennia. The Jawa's intimate knowledge of Tatooine's geography and hidden locations suggests they're aware of ancient Sith sites and artifacts buried throughout the planet. Their sandcrawlers might follow routes determined by underground temple locations rather than random scavenging opportunities. Their technology-focused culture could represent an attempt to rebuild ancient Sith technological capabilities. Rather than simply repairing found equipment, they might be gradually reconstructing lost Sith manufacturing and research capabilities. The Jawa's relationship with moisture farmers and other Tatooine inhabitants might be carefully maintained cover for their true activities. By appearing as harmless scavengers, they avoid scrutiny while continuing their search for ancestral artifacts and knowledge. Their fear of Tusken Raiders could reflect ancient racial memory of conflicts between different Sith factions. The Sand People might be descendants of Sith enemies or rivals, creating instinctive hostility that persists despite both groups' cultural degradation. The Jawa's role in Anakin's discovery gains sinister significance under this theory. Their sale of R2-D2 and C-3PO to the Lars family might have been deliberate action designed to trigger events leading to Sith return. They could have been unconsciously serving ancestral agenda by facilitating future Vader's discovery. If Jawas are Sith descendants, then Tatooine contains a hidden civilization of dark side practitioners who have maintained their culture in secret for thousands of years. Their apparent harmlessness could be perfect disguise for ongoing Sith activities. This theory explains the Jawa's mysterious nature and suggests Tatooine's importance extends far beyond moisture farming and criminal activity. The planet might be home to living remnants of galactic history's darkest chapter.
Theory 32. Hyperspace routes were created by an ancient galactic civilization. What if the major hyperspace routes connecting the galaxy weren't naturally occurring, but actually constructed by an ancient civilization that has since vanished from galactic memory? Modern galactic civilization takes hyperspace travel for granted, but the network of safe routes connecting inhabited systems seems too convenient to be a natural phenomenon. The precise pathways that avoid gravitational hazards and connect exactly where civilizations need them suggest deliberate engineering. Ancient hyperspace construction would explain why some areas of the galaxy remain unexplored despite millennia of spaceflight. If hyperspace routes were built to connect specific locations, then areas without constructed pathways would remain inaccessible to most travelers. The builders might have been galaxy's first spacefaring civilization, possibly predating known species by millions of years. They could have constructed hyperspace infrastructure to facilitate their own expansion before disappearing due to unknown catastrophe or transcendence to higher existence form. Hyperspace's strange properties, the ability to travel faster than light, navigation by familiar landmarks despite being an alternate dimension, specific entry and exit points, all suggest artificial construction rather than natural physics exploitation. Some hyperspace routes demonstrate clear signs of maintenance and modification over time. Routes that become safer or more efficient, new connections that appear between previously unlinked systems, and gradual expansion of navigable space could indicate ongoing construction by unknown entities. The ancient builders might have incorporated control mechanisms into hyperspace infrastructure. This could explain why certain routes become temporarily unavailable, why some ships experience navigation failures, and why hyperspace tracking was considered impossible until recent technological development. Lost Civilizations' references to star roads and paths between worlds might be historical memory of hyperspace route construction period. Ancient texts could contain fragmented knowledge about the builders and their purposes for creating galactic transportation network. The builders' motivation for constructing galactic-scale infrastructure remains mysterious. They might have been preparing for galactic-scale colonization, creating network for future civilizations, or building transportation system for purposes we can't understand. Modern hyperdrive technology might be reverse-engineered from builder artifacts rather than independent invention. This would explain why hyperspace travel seems to work through technology interfacing with existing infrastructure rather than purely technological, faster-than-light capability. The theory suggests current galactic civilization exists within infrastructure created by predecessors who shaped the galaxy's development in ways no one realizes. Every hyperspace journey utilizes ancient construction that made modern civilization possible. If hyperspace routes are artificial, then someone or something built the foundation for everything we see in Star Wars. The ancient builders might be the galaxy's true architects, whose influence shaped every subsequent civilization.
Theory 33. The Sarlacc is actually a galactic communication device. The Sarlacc pit on Tatooine might be more than just a dangerous desert creature. What if it's actually an ancient biological communication device designed to connect Tatooine with other worlds across the galaxy? Consider the Sarlacc's strange properties. It's described as living for thousands of years, slowly digesting victims while keeping them conscious. This isn't typical predator behavior. It's more like biological data storage and processing system. The creature's massive size and complex internal structure suggest it's more than simple organism. Its tentacles, multiple stomach chambers, and apparent intelligence indicate sophisticated biological engineering that might be artificial rather than natural evolution. Ancient civilizations might have bioengineered Sarlacc creatures as living communication networks. Each pit could be connected to others across the galaxy through quantum entanglement or dimensional folding, allowing instantaneous information transfer between worlds. The Sarlacc's 1,000-year digestion process could be data extraction and processing time rather than simple feeding behavior. Victims might be kept alive to access their memories, knowledge, and experiences, which are then transmitted to other Sarlacc nodes throughout the galaxy. This explains why Tatooine's Sarlacc is located in specific geographic area rather than randomly distributed across planet. The Great Pit of Carkoon might be positioned at planetary energy nexus or communication focal point that enhances its connection to galactic network. Jabba the Hutt's palace proximity to the Sarlacc could be a result of Hutt knowledge about the creature's true purpose. Rather than just convenient execution method, the Sarlacc might provide information services that enhanced Jabba's criminal empire operations. The creature's apparent immortality and resistance to conventional weapons suggest technology beyond current galactic understanding. Bioengineered communication devices would require incredibly advanced biotechnology that could appear magical to less developed civilizations. Boba Fett's survival inside the Sarlacc might result from his Mandalorian technology interfering with the creature's data extraction processes. His armor could have protected him from biological scanning, while his equipment confused the creature's communication systems. Other planets might contain similar creatures that appear as dangerous monsters but actually serve as network nodes. The galaxy could be connected by ancient biological internet that most current inhabitants don't recognize or understand. If Sarlacc creatures are communication devices, then feeding people to them isn't just execution but information gathering operation. Criminal organizations, governments, and other groups might use them to extract intelligence from victims while appearing to simply dispose of enemies. This theory transforms the Sarlacc from simple monster into piece of ancient technology that continues operating long after its creators disappeared, silently maintaining a communication network that influenced galactic development.
Theory 34. The Trade Federation was actually protecting the galaxy. What if the Trade Federation's seemingly greedy and aggressive behavior was actually part of a sophisticated defense strategy against extragalactic threats? The Federation's emphasis on economic control, planetary blockades, and resource management might have been preparation for galactic siege warfare against enemies from outside known space. Their actions during the prequel trilogy could represent final preparations for invasion they knew was coming. Trade Federation leadership's willingness to challenge Republic authority suggests they possessed information about threats that Republic government wasn't aware of or chose to ignore. Their aggressive expansion could have been an attempt to militarize Galaxy before external enemies arrived. The droid army's mass production capabilities were far beyond what Trade Federation business interests required. Building millions of battle droids and massive warships represents industrial mobilization for conflict scale that typical trade disputes wouldn't justify. Federation territory's strategic positioning along Outer Rim trade routes would be perfect for detecting and intercepting extragalactic visitors. Their blockades might have been defensive screens designed to identify and stop infiltrators from beyond Galaxy's edge. The Naboo crisis could have been test run for planetary defense procedures that Federation leaders knew would be necessary when real invasion began. By practicing blockade and occupation scenarios, they were preparing for defense strategies against superior enemies. Count Dooku's involvement gains new meaning under this theory. Rather than simple Sith manipulation, his recruitment might have been Federation attempt to gain access to Force-based intelligence about extragalactic threats. They needed Jedi knowledge to understand enemies who might be Force-sensitive. The Federation's rapid submission to Imperial authority suggests they achieved their real objectives during Republic's transformation.
Once galactic government was militarized and preparation complete, they no longer needed to maintain aggressive independence stance. Clone Wars' outcome served Federation purposes even though they appeared to lose. The conflict created military infrastructure, industrial capacity, and defense preparations that were their actual goals, rather than political control. Separatist leadership's strange behavior throughout Clone Wars makes sense if they were coordinating multiple agendas. Public political objectives masked military preparation activities designed to ready galaxy for defense against external invasion. The theory explains Federation willingness to sacrifice business interests for seemingly pointless political conflicts. Their economic activities were never the real purpose. They were using trade networks to build intelligence and military capabilities needed for galactic defense. If Trade Federation was preparing for extragalactic invasion, then their apparent villainy was actually misunderstood heroism. They sacrificed their reputation and business interests to protect the galaxy from threats no one else knew existed. This interpretation suggests galactic political